Hi, I'm Pat Middleton. Join me every first, second, fourth, and fifth Saturday at 1:30 p.m. for Behind the Rhyme. That's every first, second, fourth, and fifth Saturday at 1:30 p.m. for Behind the Rhyme with Pat Middleton, right here at WTMR 800 AM, live stream. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Behind the Rhyme. I am Pat Middleton, and I am thrilled about today's interview with Deneane Evelyn Stanley. Deneane, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Pat. How are you? Good afternoon.
I'm doing just fine. Welcome to Behind the Rhyme.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us. Why don't you take about 30 seconds and introduce yourself? I'm going to dig a little deeper, but in the beginning, just take about 30 seconds and say hello to our listening audience.
Hello, listening audience. This is Deneane, hailing from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, by way of Washington, D.C., the best place to grow up in the world. I am excited about today. I'm excited about my writing journey, poetry, etc. And I'm excited to be here joining Pat on this Saturday afternoon.
Thank you so much. Well, just to let people know who are listening, Deneane is a writer, an orator, a teacher, a preacher. She's a creative. She's a friend. She's a friend. She's a poet. And my fondest memory of her is receiving her little postcards years and years. I'm talking late 90s. What happened to the vision? Did you drop it? What's going on with that manuscript, sis? A pusher, a midwife. God uses her to not only fulfill his will for her life, but she helps push other people to complete the vision that God has for them as well. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But we're going to get into her. I want to start off. This is something new I've been doing with giving you her contact information now and throughout rather than waiting until the end of the interview. So, wordsofacertainwoman.com, and we're going to hear the story behind that ministry. Wordsofacertainwoman.com. That is her website. Also her Facebook page, facebook.com/wordsofacertainwoman. Also, we'll get into later her podcast or Spotify audio single of one of her poems. Well, let's dig in. Deneane, how long have you been writing?
Since I was 7. So that will be about 53 years.
Do you only write poetry?
No, actually not. I have a song under my belt that I wrote 30 years ago. And I do a lot of inspirational pieces, and essays and yeah.
And
I
short
would
stories.
Short stories also. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite form of writing, a favorite genre?
Well, it used to be, I'm going to say not really, because it really depends on what I'm writing about. I'm going to say that I cross all of them. Yeah.
Okay. what is your or who is your favorite writer or poet, and why?
Oh my gosh, the grace and class and ah, prolific queen who was Maya Angelou.
Oh yes, one of the greats.
Yes, yes, has always been my inspiration, and yeah.
Definitely one of the greats. Her, and then one we
Mhm.
just lost the other day, Nikki Giovanni,
Oh my
who
gosh.
passed. Yeah, one of my favorites as well. One of my favorites as well. Can you talk a little bit about your journey from poet to author and the first book that you published and the story behind that?
Yes. So, wow. Uh, I would say poet to author was, I think I was probably 10 or 11, and I told my mom I wanted to publish a book, and she said, "Well, go ahead and do it." Or I said, "Write a book." And so I took all I took all my little poems that I had written. They were handwritten on line paper, as neat as I could get them, and folded them up in some cardstock paper and punched 3 holes and put a piece of yarn in there and called it Poems Galore with my name at the bottom as the author. And the result about that little book just was the beginning of the journey.
Now,
So,
now I've known you for almost 20 years, if more. I have never heard this story. I am wanting to holler because you were like this from a child.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And the
If that
funny
don't
thing is
sound
that
like Deneane, I don't know what
oh
does.
man, and I still have that little book. I'd actually keep it as a inspiration for me. Yeah, so that was the beginning of the author, and later in my 20s was when I first officially published my first book,
Mm-hmm.
and the what pushed me to publish was as I was in my own head trying to perfect everything and get everything the way it needed to be. Um, it needed to be. Um, I was at a book stand in downtown DC and saw this book that was spiral bound and cardstock, and I was like, wow, this could have been better. And then the voice in my head said, but she's published. And
Mm.
that was my published my first book. I think it was in '94, and it was basically it was called A Bouquet of Roses, and it was all about women who are roses, based on a piece that I wrote some time ago. And my whole point of publishing the book was to celebrate these unsung heroes who would not otherwise be celebrated, and to create a record copy of their story for their families. So
Yes,
that was
that's
my
around the time I met you, a
yes,
few years
yes,
after that. And
yeah,
the tribute poems that you wrote for women were certainly legacy pieces
yes,
for
absolutely,
them and their families.
yes,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, since then, your journey has expanded beyond the print word.
Yes,
Tell us
yes,
about that
definitely.
expansion and about Word of a Certain Woman.
Yes. So the expansion of taking it beyond words was, I guess, discovered probably. It's wow. That's been still more than 20 years ago when I began to work with other authors, and then coming to the conclusion with people saying to me, "You got a great voice. You should record your stuff," and discovering recorder books, and then connecting with other spoken word artists who I was able to do several. And then on my birthday, I think in 2021 maybe, I released my first spoken word piece. Um, and that was the beginning of that journey, which was a whole nother another level. But ironically, hearing my own voice in my pieces just surprised me.
It's a certain feeling when you hear, when you hear your voice
Yeah,
echoing what your hands have written, what your heart has cried out
yeah,
back. It's powerful.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
ministry.
and the
It can minister to you as well in
yeah,
your
yeah,
seasons where you need ministering to. The
absolutely,
recorded
absolutely.
your recordings. I know that that's what mine do for me.
Oh yeah, me, and that's what that was gonna be my next sentence. I pulled them up on occasion, pieces that I've written 15, 20 years ago, and they still have the same effect. Like my emotions are affected, my spirit is affected, and and that it blesses me first, and then it's able to bless others. So
Amen.
yeah,
Amen. Well, I'm going to pause here and have you read whatever you've selected to read. I want to jump back into the story behind the rhyme of your audio single, your single on Spotify, and I want to dig into Words of a Certain Woman. But let us hear from you, whatever you've
okay,
chosen.
okay, okay. Cool. Um, um, ironically, it's gonna be a recording. I hope you can hear this. Let's see.
Is it We Cross Over?
No, 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 no.
Okay, all right.
You have that up?
I do.
Oh, well, let's do that one.
Let's do that. Play it first, and then
Yeah,
we'll hear. Let's do that. Play it first, and then we'll
yeah,
hear you share about it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
It would help if I was logged in to Spotify.
Okay.
With gratitude, we cross over. I was but an egg when the fight began. No thoughts about me had surfaced, except in my daddy's mind. Much struggle, pain, almost unbearable, but a worthy fight to determine our plight. Gratitude from the heart of the egg that evolved. On this side, I read about the dream, mayhem, fire, water, and dogs. I see images through the looking glass of the past. The view from here is provocative. It calls preparing to fight, different dogs, cleansing water, soul burning fire. Get up, do something. The fight was, is, and is to come. More tears, greater determination. Use the tools. Determination. Use the tools. Gifts and talents die not. Education and knowledge are lifeblood. Every episode a lesson in love, sacrifice, justice. Crossing over, I hold the hope of the legends, the strength of they speak to me strong through verse and song. Appreciation for those who had the tenacity to write it. Someone had to prepare the guidelines, capture the present for the future, with pen on scroll held tightly, flowing from soul. Gratitude from the heart of the egg that evolved. Bound not by chains, limited only by personal preference. I cross over with anticipation, knowing the foundation has been well laid by the strong. The blood of the martyrs provoke action, revenge none. Action to show gratitude, action and attitude. The provocation still present, understanding and appreciating the past erects the bridge. The past erects the bridge. Together we cross over. We cross over. We cross over. We cross over.
We Cross Over by Deneane Stanley. Wow, I cannot wait to hear the story behind the rhyme. Behind the rhyme. If you're just tuning in, we are with Deneane Evelyn Stanley, and we have just heard her single, We Cross Over, and now we're going to hear the story behind the rhyme.
Yes. So during this time, and it was about 30 years ago again, I'm living in Calvert County, and Martin Luther King's birthday was coming up. And myself, along with another young lady, she asked me to do a piece with her, a co-author. Well, not co-author, but a joint. And I began to write, and actually, just with the mindset of what was going on, with all the things that Martin Luther King's dream was to accomplish, and just looking at the state of the world and understanding that we can't do it individually, that we have to leverage what has been, prepare for what will be, and future that we envision.
So we can cross over.
We can cross over. And initially, there was no music. When I decided to do it for my birthday, I read it just in a moment on my recorder and sent it to my son and asked him if he could put music to it. I'm thinking he's gonna call me in so we could freshen up my voice, and that's the product that he came up with. He said, "Mom, this is perfect," and just added music and pulled the children in to sing the little piece to it. And when I heard that again, I was like, wow, this is amazing. That's the thing. Like, we still need to understand that we have to cross over together. So.
I loved, there were two lines. One echoing in my mind is that we hold the hope of the legends.
Yeah.
The hope of the legends.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and the other one was talking about from our hearts, our hands, the words, where the flowing of the words. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep up and not write too much, and then I missed what should you say? Wait a minute. So, but very moving indeed. Yeah. Now, you also have another. Now, do you have any other audio projects? I know you do, but can you tell us anything about any of your other ones?
Yes.
Any of your other ones?
Yes. Well, one that is still on the burner, but is completed, is one I wrote in I want to say 2010, and it was the ABCs. It was when I first tripped into ABCs, and I wrote from A to Z, a poetic piece full of prose and everything to share, as we journey. So that one is waiting. It's recorded. I just have to get it to the studio. Um, but and words, which is the reason that I write. Words that come to me often from a place beyond my personal self, but I can touch them with my thoughts. And that piece just kind of is the whole overview of why I write. Um, the closing line says, the words pour into empty cisterns, bringing life.
Now, was that
So,
one of the ones that you had ready to share with us today, or?
well, the one that I want to share today is the one that I wrote. What inspires me to write art is life and people and experiences. And I'm the mother of a son, and and I realize that, and he's a grown up now. But I realize that a lot, and he's a grown up now. But I realize that a lot of times we don't encourage our boys as much. Our expectations of them are very high to just be a man, do the thing, just do it. But every now and then, I think we have to take the time to encourage them. Start a series called Musings of a Queen, and this piece is called Arise King. Is it a good time to share this now?
It is a perfect time, yes.
Okay, so Arise King. Exhale, stretch. Be in tune with the flow. It's going to be an incredible, dimensional kind of stuff. Next level everything. Ascend to your new altitudes, correct bad attitudes, ensure healing and self-love becomes perpetual. Take a breath, for the breath of you is adjusting to accommodate greater capacity. Territory will be enlarged. Prepare accordingly. Arise and start talking, walking like a king. Step up and be acknowledged by you first. Now, time to catapult.
Wow. Wow. Powerful. And the taking in of the breath, stretching yourself is
Yes,
almost like you realize when you take a deep breath, your lungs are stretching.
yes, yes,
And
yes,
that's the
yes.
first thing I thought of. Yeah, awesome, awesome
Yeah.
work.
And when I wrote that, I sent it to my nephews, to my brothers, because they, our men need to be encouraged as well. We're good to, especially, sisters. We encourage ourselves, each other. We encourage ourselves, each other, all the time. But every now and then we have to remember to encourage our brothers, you know.
Amen.
So
Amen. I
yeah.
agree. Can we hear a little bit about the background for your website, Woman? And
Yes.
also, I noticed that you have a link. I'd forgotten to ask you about that. Um, the podcast. So it's a Words of a
Yes.
Certain Woman website and a podcast. So tell us about that.
Yes. Yes. So in this all words of a certain woman, and I actually have a story written about how she came about, and how she was revealed to me, which was in 2007 when Mom passed away. And there is just it's almost like there is not an alter ego, but a self inside of self that does not have to come forward until needed. And even though going through life you had this thing, but after Mom passed away, it was a revelation that I am a certain woman, sure, stable, strong, um, ready, purposeful, all of those things that Mom poured into me came forward. And so, in addition to my evolution, I became a certain woman. And so that's what's behind my website. And most things, like my name wasn't on anything.
It sure wasn't. I was putting in Deneane. I was like, where's her website? And then I went to your Facebook page and I was like, oh, it's Words of
Yes,
a
yes,
Certain Woman.
yes. And for me, that was like you know how you have a superpower, and I feel like my superpower is talking and writing. And I just kind of, put the certain woman ahead. I felt like a certain woman, like, the one who came to meet Jesus, who knew what she wanted. She didn't have to question. She didn't have to ask anybody's permission. She already knew, and that's the way I feel. Like I'm, already have her to do what I've been called to do, and I write. So, that's what that's all about. And the podcast was inspired by my niece Eris, because I love to talk and I love to get information. I love to help. And one of information to put on the podcast, but one that I started with was life in the after mom, because that's a topic that I think a lot of people go through, and to provide a way to go that and to share how we were able, 5 siblings were able to get through life in the after mom, as we're still doing today.
I
So,
think that's a powerful outlet. I've recently, as you know, walked
yes,
and I'm
yes,
still walking
yes,
and I'm
yes,
still walking in the after
yeah,
mom and
yes,
life. Well, you
yeah,
have to have me on that podcast and I can go into it. I'm
yes,
not going to open that book
absolutely,
right now, but
yes. Yes,
life in the
and
after mom.
it's as long as we're here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's as long as we live, we're in that space. Valleys, it's highs and lows, it's moments and manifestations, tears and joy, all together. But knowing that mom left an impact, and we are the continuation of her legacy. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much.
so
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much for being with us on
yes,
today.
you are so welcome.
Wordsofacertainwoman.com. Go on
Yeah,
Spotify and purchase and download that single, We
yeah,
Cross Over. And
yeah.
tune in next Saturday for Bread of Life. I will be back on the 4th Saturday. Remember, Behind the Rhyme airs every 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th Saturday. And when we resume on the 4th Saturday this month, the 28th, we will be with Lady B,
All
a.k.a.
right.
Rashida Brown. And so
Okay, looking forward to that.
until then, listening audience and Deneane, thank you so much for being with us on today. In the
Okay.
meantime, everyone, be blessed, be encouraged, and believe. Schrinkfelder Missionary Church is next with Pastor